Hey guys, igama lam ndingithobela, and today I want to talk about inflation and the importance of the inflation concept. Especially if you are investing for the short to medium term, I believe that inflation becomes an important concept. So what is inflation? Inflation is a measure of change in prices of goods and services. And in South Africa, we use a particular basket of goods and services, and we measure this on a month-to-month basis. So from the month of February to the month of March, inflation gone up by 4.5%. So that means that basket of goods and services has gone up by 4.5% from the last month. So why is then therefore this concept important in investing, especially if we are looking at the short to medium term? Now remember, short to medium term means different things to different people, and also bear in mind that these videos do not constitute financial advice. If you are looking for financial advice, please do consult an FSCA approved financial planner. And also these videos are my opinions and not opinions of an entity or of someone else. So therefore, why is this important? I believe it's important for a couple of reasons. One, because when we set our financial goals, we often do not account for inflation. And that's because we do not know what inflation will be. If it's measured on a month-to-month basis, you have no way of knowing what it's going to be in a certain period. You can estimate, unless you are saving for something that does not change. Let's say over a certain period, it does not change. So therefore, you can know with certainty how much it's going to be at a certain point in time. But if you are saving for most things with due change in price, you have no way of knowing. And when you set your SMART goals, you base it on what you think it is today. So if that is the case, therefore, it is important that one or other way in your investment, you consider inflation. The other reason is that we cannot always buy what we want when we have the money. You know, it is sometimes important to delay the purchase because you do not need it at that point in time. So therefore, if that's the case, we need to delegate the inflation component of this purchase somewhere else. So let me use an example of one of the reasons why we save for our kids. So let us say that your child is going through a rites of passage within a year's time, and you have identified one of the expenses that you are going to need for this ceremony. And you've identified that, okay, fine, you're going to need a cow for this feast, and you've identified that this cow is going to cost you 10,000 Rand. I mean, you've found a nice, fat, and healthy one, and you've identified that it's going to cost you 10,000 Rand, and you've got the 10,000 Rand, but you can't buy it then because the ceremony is in a year's time. Exactly. And therefore, you take your money and you put it in an investment account. And let's say that over that year's period, inflation averages to 5%. And now this cow is 10,500 Rands. If where you saved your money, it did not grow by at least 500 Rands to 10,500 Rand, you will not be able to afford that cow. So in essence, where you saved your money has lost you the purchasing power of your money. So you cannot afford the same thing that you were able to afford when you took your money and put it into this vehicle. I believe that this is quite important because remember, when you take your money and put it in an investment account with an entity, this is not an act of charity. So you're not doing charity. That entity takes the money and use it to something. So for example, I mean, think of yourself, you are saving for this cow, you put this money away thinking that in a year's time you want to buy, you know, whatever that you want to buy. They take your money when you put it away and they do something. So in essence, if they were on the other side of that transaction, they could actually afford the cow, you know, at that point in time. So it's a matter of then keeping that cow wherever they keep it and then sell it at 10,500 Rands in a year's time and then give you your 10,500 Rand. I mean, this is a simple example, but the point of this is that if you are saving for the short to medium term, it becomes very important that wherever you put your money, it at least preserve the purchasing power of that money, because if it does not, then you essentially need to save more to afford the things that you afforded when you put your money away, and usually when we put our money away for that period of time, we want to use it towards something, and therefore it is important that at that point in time we are still able to save, we are still able to buy that particular thing that we wanted to buy. Remember, when you choose your investment account, especially for the short to medium term, inflation becomes an important concept. So I find that inflation becomes, knowing how much inflation is over a certain period of time becomes quite important, especially if you are choosing an investment account over the short to medium term, or sometimes, one of these fixed accounts. Let's say that it's going to be fixed for a year and then it's going to give you a certain amount of interest. It's important to then know, how much was inflation over the past year and what is the likelihood of inflation over that year, so that when you're accepting a certain fixed return, it is at least above inflation, because then that means you are able to afford what you were able to afford when you put your money away. Until my next video, goodbye.